My name's Jake, 29, from a small town in Ohio. I've been a security guard for about 5 years, mostly pulling night shifts because the pay's decent and I'm kind of a night owl. Last summer, I took a job at Willow Creek Hospital, an old rundown place that's been mostly empty since a new hospital opened nearby. It seemed like easy money. Walk the halls, check some locks, maybe listen to a podcast. But my last night there, it changed me. I'm sharing this because I need you to know what happened, why I'll never work security again. Willow Creek Hospital was the kind of place that gave you the creeps just driving up. It was this hulking brick building, half covered in ivy, with windows that looked like empty eyes. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and I was usually alone, patrolling 4 floors and a basement that smelled like wet dirt and decay. The first couple of weeks were uneventful. Creaky pipes, flickering fluorescent lights, nothing I couldn't handle. I'd do my rounds, check the logbook, and try not to think about how the place felt like it was watching me. That last night started normal. I got to the hospital around 9:45 p.m., grabbed my flashlight, and signed in. The air was heavy, like a storm was coming, though the sky was clear. I started my rounds on the ground floor, locking doors and testing alarms. Everything was fine until about midnight, when I hit the 3rd floor. That's where the old psychiatric ward was. A long hallway sealed off with double doors. Nobody went in there. It'd been locked since the 80s. I was halfway down the corridor when I heard it. A sharp tapping, like someone rapping their knuckles on glass. It was faint at first, barely audible over the hum of the air vents. I stopped, my flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. The sound was coming from the psych ward doors. Tap, tap, tap. Steady, deliberate, like someone wanted my attention. My first thought was pipes. Old buildings make weird noises, right? But this felt different. It had a rhythm, almost like a code. I crept closer, my boots squeaking on the linoleum. The tapping got louder, more insistent. I shined my light through the door's small windows, expecting to see nothing but dust and shadows. Instead, I caught a glimpse of movement, a dark shape, tall and thin, slipping out of sight. My heart slammed against my ribs. I fumbled for my radio, my voice shaking as I called out, "Hello? This is security. Show yourself." Silence. The tapping stopped, but now I felt exposed, like whatever was behind those doors knew I was there. I radioed my supervisor, Greg, who was at the main office 20 miles away. "Probably just kids," he grumbled, half asleep. "Check it out and report back." Kids? At midnight in a locked hospital? I wasn't buying it. I checked the doors, padlocked, no signs of tampering. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I moved on, telling myself it was my imagination, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. By 1:30 a.m., I was on the 2nd floor, checking the old surgical wing. The air was colder here, the kind of chill that seeps into your bones. I was marking my checklist when I heard footsteps, soft, uneven, like someone walking barefoot. They were coming from the hallway I'd just cleared. I swung my flashlight around, my breath catching. The corridor was empty, but the footsteps kept coming, closer now, slapping against the floor. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice echoing. The sound stopped. For a moment it was dead quiet. Then, right behind me, a whisper, low, hoarse, like it was brushing my ear. "Stay." I spun around, my flashlight beam slicing through the dark. Nothing. Nobody. My pulse was racing so fast I felt dizzy. I backed up, my shoulder hitting a wall, and that's when I noticed the smell. Sickly sweet, like rotting fruit. I didn't wait to figure out what it was. I ran for the stairwell, my boots pounding, the whisper echoing in my head. The whole way down, I felt it, like eyes drilling into my back, following me. I locked myself in the security office on the ground floor, my hands shaking as I checked the cameras. Most of the feeds were fuzzy, but the 3rd floor camera, the one by the psych ward, showed something that made my stomach lurch. There was a figure, blurry, humanoid, standing in the middle of the hallway. It wasn't moving, just facing the camera, its head tilted like it was studying me. I blinked, and the feed cut to static. When it came back, the hallway was empty. I stayed in the office for hours, too scared to move. Around 4 a.m., I had to do my final sweep, including the basement. I'd been dreading it all night. The basement was where the old morgue was, a place even the day shift avoided. But if I skipped it, I'd lose my job, and I needed the money. So I grabbed my flashlight, took a deep breath, and headed down. The basement was a maze of concrete walls and rusted pipes. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of mold and something worse, something metallic, like blood. My flashlight flickered as I moved. casting long shadows that seemed to twist and writhe. I was checking the storage rooms when the tapping started again, louder this time, coming from the morgue door at the end of the hall. My mouth went dry. I wanted to turn back, but something, curiosity, stupidity, pulled me forward. The tapping stopped as I reached the door. I gripped the handle, my palms sweaty, and pushed it open. The smell hit me like a wave, rotten, overpowering, like something had died and been left to fester. My flashlight flickered again, then went out completely. I stood there in the dark, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it. Then I heard breathing, slow, wet, like someone with fluid in their lungs. It was close, too close. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy, and turned on its flashlight. The morgue was empty, no open drawers, no bodies, but the floor was covered in dust, and in that dust were footprints, small, bare, leading from the door to the far wall where they just stopped, like whoever made them had walked into nothing. I backed up, my breath hitching, and that's when I saw it, scratched into the wall in jagged, uneven letters. Stay with us. I ran, didn't stop until I was in my car, doors locked, engine roaring. I drove straight home, the whisper looping in my mind. Later that day, I checked my phone. It had recorded audio while I was in the morgue. I played it back, hoping for answers. There was my breathing, my footsteps, and then clear as day, a voice I didn't know. You can't leave. I quit the next morning, never went back to Willow Creek. A friend of mine did some digging and found out the hospital had a dark past. Patients in the psych ward who'd vanished, nurses who'd quit after hearing voices. Some say it's cursed, built on land where something evil was buried long ago. I don't know what's true. All I know is I'm done with night shifts. Forever. I'm Sarah, 34, from Denver. I've been a delivery driver for a food service for 3 years, mostly doing night runs to restaurants and hotels. There's something peaceful about driving when the world's asleep. Just me, my van, and the open road. But last October, I took a delivery that turned that peace into pure terror. I'm still not sure what I saw that night, but it's why I'll never take another rural route again. It was a chilly night in October, and I was working the graveyard shift for a company that delivers fresh produce to businesses across Colorado. My last stop was Marty's Place, a little diner way out on Highway 17, surrounded by dense woods and not much else. I'd been there a dozen times before. Marty, the owner, was a grumpy old guy who'd leave the back door open for me to drop off crates of vegetables. It was a quick job. Unload, stack, leave. No big deal. But that night felt wrong from the start. I pulled into the diner's lot around 1 a.m., my van's headlights cutting through the dark. The neon sign flickered like it was on its last legs, and the parking lot was empty, not a single car. I noticed the woods right away. They seemed too quiet, too still, like they were holding their breath. As I shut off the engine, I caught a glimpse of something in my peripheral vision, a quick movement at the tree line like someone had ducked behind a trunk. I squinted, but it was gone. Probably an animal, I told myself. Deer were common out here. I grabbed the crates from the back of the van, my breath fogging in the cold air. The back door was open just like Marty always left it, but the kitchen was pitch black. That was weird. Marty never turned off the lights. I called out, "Marty, it's Sarah, got your delivery." My voice echoed, unanswered. The only sound was the low hum of the walk-in cooler. I set the crates down, my skin prickling. The darkness felt heavy like it was pressing against me. I worked fast, stacking the boxes by the cooler. Every few seconds, I glanced at the windows, half expecting to see a face staring back. The woods were right there, just beyond the glass, and they felt alive, watchful. I was almost done when I heard a thud from the front of the diner, loud, like a chair tipping over. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone, thinking I'd call Marty, but the screen showed no signal. That didn't make sense. I always had service out here, even in the middle of nowhere. I crept toward the kitchen door, my sneakers silent on the tile. The dining area was dark, the booths barely visible in the glow from the exit sign. "Marty, you okay?" I called. Nothing. Then I saw it, a shadow moving near the counter, low to the ground, like someone crawling on their hands and knees. My breath caught. I blinked, and it was gone, like it had melted into the floor. I told myself it was my eyes playing tricks, but my body wasn't buying it. My hands were clammy, my heart racing. Then I heard the humming. It was soft at first, almost like a tune, but wrong, guttural, like someone was trying to sing through a closed mouth. It was coming from the dining room near the jukebox. I backed up, my shoulder brushing the wall. The humming grew louder, more insistent, like it was calling me. I didn't wait to find out what it wanted. I turned and ran for the back door, my pulse pounding in my ears. Outside, the air was freezing, and my van was still there, thank God. But as I sprinted toward it, I heard footsteps behind me, fast, uneven, like something was loping across the gravel. I didn't look back. I dove into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the keys, fumbling to pick them up. When I finally got the engine started, I swung the headlights toward the diner. That's when I saw it, a figure, tall and hunched, standing at the edge of the woods. It wasn't Marty. It wasn't anyone human. Its head was tilted like it was sizing me up. I floored it, tires screeching as I peeled out. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless, and I kept checking my mirrors, expecting to see that thing chasing me. It wasn't there, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave. About 2 miles out, my phone buzzed. Signal was back. I called Marty, my voice shaking. He picked up, groggy. "Sarah, what's going on?" I told him everything. The open door, the noises, the figure. He went silent for a long time, then said, "I wasn't at the diner tonight. Closed at 8 p.m. Nobody should have been there." My blood ran cold. I asked about the back door, why it was unlocked. He swore he'd locked it himself before leaving. I didn't know what to say. I told him I was done, that I wouldn't deliver to his place again. He didn't argue. When I got home, I parked under a streetlight and stayed in the van until sunrise, too scared to go inside alone. A few days later, I heard from another driver that Marty's place had been trashed that night. Someone, or something, had smashed the windows, ripped up the booths, and broken the jukebox clean in half. The cops found tracks in the dirt outside, but they weren't right. Too big, too deep, like something heavy had been dragging itself around. They never found who did it. I still drive for the company, but I stick to city routes now, where there's light and noise and people. Every time I pass a dark stretch of road, I hear that humming in my head, see that figure in the woods. I don't know what it was, but I know it wanted me to stay, and I'm never giving it the chance. I'm Carlos, 26, from Phoenix. I've been working warehouse jobs since I dropped out of college. Long hours, decent pay, no complaints. Last year, I got a gig at a distribution center just outside the city. It was massive, like a city of crates and machines. I thought the night shift would be chill, just me, a forklift, and some music. But something was in that warehouse with me, something that knew my name. The distribution center was a beast, 50,000 square feet of concrete and steel, packed with pallets of everything from TVs to winter coats. My shift was 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and I worked with two other guys, Mike and Reggie. They were cool, but they called out a lot, so I was often on my own, driving the forklift through aisles that seemed to stretch forever. The place had a weird vibe from the start, lights that buzzed and flickered, cold spots that didn't make sense. I figured it was just an old building, nothing to sweat about. The first month was fine, just boring. I'd stack pallets, check inventory, and listen to my playlist to stay awake. But then things started getting strange. I'd hear noises, crates shifting, like someone was moving them, but when I'd check, everything was in place. Then I noticed stuff being messed with. Boxes I'd stacked one way would be turned around, labels facing backward. I asked Mike and Reggie about it, but they swore they hadn't touched my section. My manager said it was probably the day crew, but I didn't believe him. The day crew didn't come near aisle 17. One night, around 2 a.m., I was on the forklift, moving pallets in aisle 12, when my radio crackled. I hadn't touched it. It was clipped to my belt, set to a dead channel. Static hissed, and then a voice came through, low and clear. "Carlos," my name, just like that. I hit the brakes so hard the forklift jerked. I looked around, my flashlight beam bouncing off the crates. The warehouse was empty, silent except for the hum of the overhead lights. Mike and Reggie weren't in that night. I was alone. I turned the radio off, my hands shaking. It had to be a glitch, right? A signal from somewhere else. I tried to laugh it off, but my stomach was in knots. I kept working, keeping my music low so I could hear if anything moved. An hour later, I was in the break room, heating up some leftovers when the lights cut out. Not just in the room. The entire warehouse went dark, like someone flipped a switch. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint drip of a pipe somewhere. I felt my way to the door, cursing myself for leaving my phone in my locker. That's when I heard it, a laugh, soft and guttural, like someone was standing right outside the break room. My blood turned to ice. "Who's there?" I called, my voice cracking. The laugh stopped, but now there were footsteps, slow, dragging, circling the room. I grabbed a chair and wedged it under the door handle, my heart pounding. The footsteps paused, then started again, moving away toward the main floor. I waited until I couldn't hear them anymore, then slipped out, grabbing a flashlight from the supply closet. The warehouse was bathed in shadows, the emergency lights barely glowing. I checked the aisles, telling myself I needed to be sure I was alone. In aisle 9, I found something that made my knees weak. A pallet of boxes had been rearranged into a perfect circle, each crate stacked with precision, like someone had spent hours on it. In the center was a piece of paper. I picked it up, my flashlight shaking. It was an old photo, yellowed and creased, of a man in a worker's uniform. His face was scratched out, the eyes gone, like someone had clawed them away. I dropped the photo and ran for the exit. The main doors were locked. My keys were gone, probably lost in the break room. I was trapped. The laugh came again, echoing from the loading dock. I grabbed a crowbar from a toolbox, my hands slick with sweat, and headed there. The dock was a cavern of crates and shadows, the air thick and cold. At the far end, under a flickering emergency light, I saw him, a man, tall and thin, standing motionless. His head was bowed, his face hidden. I gripped the crowbar, my voice barely a whisper. "What do you want?" He lifted his head, and I saw it. His face was wrong, like the photo. No eyes, just black, empty sockets. I screamed, swinging the crowbar, but he was gone, like he'd never been there. The lights snapped back on, and the doors clicked open. I didn't wait. I ran to my car, peeling out of the lot like my life depended on it. I never went back. Quit over the phone the next day. A buddy of mine who still works there told me the warehouse has a history. Back in the 90s, a worker died, crushed by a falling pallet. The company hushed it up, said it was an accident, but the guy had been stealing, and some say he never left. Older workers claim they've seen him, walking the aisles, watching. I don't know if it was him I saw, but I know he said my name, and I'm never setting foot in a warehouse again.